So, welcome all. First of all, thanks for all for being here. It's really nice that so many of you have shown up. My name is Bennink. I'm one of the founders of Blockport, and together with Sebastian Lichter, we started Blockport around 8 months ago. And today we'll be hosting one of the first Blockport official meetups. And today, 4 of our Blockport team members will tell a bit more about what we do, about our marketing activities. Pascal will tell a bit more about our marketing activities and strategy. Sebastian will tell a bit more about our hybrid decentralized architecture, together with our Chief Technical Officer, Zowie. Spiros, our Chief Design, will give you a preview of some new designs that we will be launching in our beta end of March. And also Lars Rensing, CFO of ARC, will be joining us in the AMA session, where you will be able to ask us all some questions after the talks. We won't be giving very lengthy talks today because we really want to engage with you and also meet with you on a personal level and drink some beers, obviously. So, to start with, I would like to ask you some questions. Who of you owns Blockport tokens? Raise your hands. Ah. 80%. Nice. Okay. The rest, please stand up and leave this building. No, I'm just kidding. Second question. Who of you have actually read our white paper? So not just skipped it, but read, holy moly. Okay, we have quite some experts here. Okay, nice. The third question sounds a bit as a silly question, maybe, but I will explain later why I'm asking it. And that is, who of you has ever tried to explain how to buy Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies to friends or family that are not tech savvy, so beginners? Raise your hand. After explaining, who of you was successful? Ah, nice. Now that was the cue for us to start with Blockport. So what is Blockport? Basically, we are an end-to-end trading platform that enables beginners, but also everyone, to buy Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies very, very easy. But we're not just a regular exchange, or we don't want to be a regular exchange, but we want to be a social crypto exchange. So what does social crypto exchange mean? A social crypto exchange, in our opinion, is one that is building a knowledge-sharing community around it. So we are incorporating social trading features to enable our users or beginners to follow or copy other people's portfolios or trading activities. And this is also where the Blockport token comes into play, because you can use it as a utility token to pay others to copy or follow their portfolio or their trading activities. And this really enables beginners to learn from experienced traders, and experienced traders are incentivized to share their knowledge and share their experience with newcomers. So, in a nutshell, Blockport doesn't just want to be a simple cryptocurrency exchange, but we want to build a knowledge-sharing community around it. So, Sebastian will now take over and tell you a bit more about our hybrid decentralized architecture.
Well, Kai just told you guys about the social part really briefly. Like he said before, we aren't going to have lengthy talks, so we're going to be really briefly and engage in a more personal way later in this evening. Besides being social, the crypto exchange is built on a hybrid decentralized architecture. So that's a mouthful, and everyone's like, what the fuck's a hybrid decentralized architecture? So I would like to start with asking you again some questions. Who knows what a centralized exchange is? Okay, obviously, yeah. And who knows what a decentralized exchange is? Okay, a little bit less. Okay, well, obviously there are advantages and disadvantages of both. Centralized exchanges are mostly the ones that have been here for a few years now. So you can think of GDEX, Bennink, Kraken, you name it. Centralized means that they're all funds and all trading happens on in one system. So it's basically just centralized on their servers. They host everything, meaning that you don't own your private keys, you don't own your funds. The exchange owns your funds. However, it's really fast. So when you place an order, it settles almost instantly. So you press buy and you have them instantly in your own wallets. Well, not your own wallets, but their wallets. So developments after the centralized exchanges came towards decentralized exchanges. So keeping your funds safe, keeping you the ownership of your funds. So you can think of Ether Delta, IDEX, which both of them BPT can be traded on. However, they are really slow, as you can maybe acknowledge. However, it is safe to store your funds there because you have them always in your own wallet. So the hybrid thing means that we really combine both things, so the best of both worlds, keeping your funds decentralized on the blockchain, but trading happens centralized, fast. So in version 3, we will build the hybrid decentralized exchange, which is scheduled for end of this year, beginning of next year. Before that, we have 2 other versions, which all of you have read the white paper, so you obviously know. The first version is coming next month, the beta version of it, which allows us to let our customers buy and sell cryptocurrencies because we build a shell, a user-friendly shell around other exchanges. So we couple with our API, our backend, with other exchanges, such as Bennink or Blab, even the Dutch exchange, you guys maybe know of it. So we allow people to buy them in a more user-friendly manner. And the second version allows people to do social trading, and we also integrate with more exchanges. So we leverage the liquidity of multiple exchanges around the world and pull it towards our own dashboard so people can place orders on multiple exchanges at once, keeping fees lower and also having more liquidity. So version 3 is the hybrid decentralized exchange, which encompasses everything in all. And now Zowie, our CTO, is going to go a bit more in depth about all versions. It's also about a bit of roadmap changes, small changes that we did and are going to do. And he's also going to talk about our tech culture and about recent developments.
Hi there, everyone. Thanks for coming, first of all. I'm Zowie. I'm the CTO of Blockport. Actually, Bas has more or less explained a part of my slides. I think I had a little bit too many slides, and I kind of went over time, so I'm going to go through those a little bit quicker than I anticipated, which is fine. Empty. And first of all, I'm going to go through what we have been through as a team the last couple of months. I mean, starting Blockport is not just from the get-go with a white paper and an ICO and immediately get started with building. A lot of stuff has happened before that, of course. And it all started with the white paper and the technical concepts needed to validate our idea. This was around 6 months ago, where I actually already worked with Bas, and I already worked with Kai as well on previous projects. And we started brainstorming, working out ideas, also from our own experience with other exchanges and such. After that, some minor prototyping, naturally. So during writing of the white paper, you have to go from an abstract level of these ideas on how to build an exchange and how to work with one and how they work internally. You have to work through something that eventually gives you an idea of what all the technical requirements are of what you have to do. And for that, it's really, really handy to actually start writing some code. So I collaborated with other developers to start some minor prototyping with existing projects that were already there to kind of validate how we wanted to approach things, just to have a feeling of security and, of course, the ability to talk about it whenever needed. Then the pre-sale, 3rd of January. That went really, really well. That was a really exciting time also for us because we actually had no idea whether it was going to work and how people would receive our idea. I mean, we had some ideas, of course, because we got some validation by talking with people. But overall, this was like the moment we realized that there was a high chance that it was eventually going to be a reality, also for us and also for other people. Then, of course, you have an idea, you have some funds, and you know that the idea that you told people about is something they actually want to have. So we started to kickstart the build process, actually working with developers, not prototyping anymore, but really actively building the product and planning everything and collaborating with everyone. Keep in mind, though, that we, before the pre-sale, didn't really have any team at all. We didn't have developers. I mean, we knew developers and people that were interested and collaborated with us, but we didn't really have a team. So along with kickstarting of the build process, we had to recruit. We had to assemble a team, find developers that were interested in crypto, knew something about crypto, not necessarily blockchain developers, but at least people willing to work with us on such a crazy idea in some way. And this was one of the things that I got started on the first month, actually. So, of course, also technical stuff, but a lot of setting up the ideas for the culture, the kind of people that we wanted to hire, and making decisions on that level. I think I should point that way. Okay, cool. And then the crowd sale, of course. Again, this was more or less a surprise on how well it actually went. And of course, we already knew we had to build this, but now we realized that this was like building Blockport was the only thing we had to worry about for the coming months. So the phase that we are currently in is nothing more than just go, 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 and make sure that we can actually realize this. Then, it's that way. Okay, I'm just going to do it like that from now on. Yeah, thanks. All right, so basically where we're headed, this is not really the roadmap, so bear in mind that I'm trying to focus more or less on the technical aspects and not necessarily on how we implement the social trading features, etc. But this is definitely roadmap related. So what we are going to start with is external exchanges. Bas already told something about that. And after that come internal exchange. That is the fact that we are going to match our own orders and not necessarily forward them to other exchanges and distribute them over them. And then, of course, the decentralized exchange, which will enable you to actually use your own private keys and manage your own funds completely with your own ownership. Maybe you already noticed something. It's a little bit different because initially we wanted to do 3 releases, which is still definitely the plan, like Blockport 1, 2, and 3. But because of a couple of, let's call them challenges we ran into with integrating with external exchanges, we chose to move the implementation of our internal exchange, which is a requirement for the decentralized part, move it forward a little bit. So that will actually enable you to trade on Blockport itself a little bit faster. And the reason for that is that integrating with external exchanges can be relatively cumbersome, and it's not necessarily because of APIs or features they provide or other issues they have, but it is more about the fact that it's transferring funds that you continuously do over multiple exchanges, which requires you to take one approach. There are many approaches you can actually take on how to implement this on a technical level, and also just on a more high-level conceptual level. But to actually make sure that we can realize all the ideas and goals that we have for Blockport, including social trading features, it is kind of a requirement for us to be able to settle orders quickly and to have more flexibility in the future. And for that, we just need the internal exchange. Internal exchanges, this is basically, it's a very simplified version, of course, of how it will work. But to give you an overview, you're an awesome trader. You want to use Blockport. You create an order on it, and we distribute these orders over multiple exchanges. The advantages of this for us also are that we can actually spread your orders. There are a lot of advantages to that for you and for us. Liquidity, naturally, because we are starting an exchange, that is just a big challenge in general, and we can actually use liquidity of other exchanges indirectly. Listings, the moment currencies are listed on one exchange of the exchanges that we actually implement, we are still able to offer it, which is kind of awesome because we could actually end up having a lot of listings. And the reliability, of course, we can distribute orders over multiple exchanges, and it gives us the option. There's no single point of failure. Let's keep it like that. There's not really one central place where something could go wrong. And then our second goal is to work towards an internal exchange. This is all stuff that is more or less in the white paper, so you probably can recognize something. The advantages here are performance. For us, we have an internal order book that we keep, so we're able to match orders also internally with our own code or on our own infrastructure, not necessarily dependent on any interaction with external components that we actually have no control over at all. Control, like I already said it, we don't have control over external services. We do have control over our internal ones. Predictability, the fact that we actually know how something we build functions gives us the ability to predict how it will function more or less, which also enables us to get more insight into how to improve things. And transparency, the fact that we actually know exactly what goes on also enables us to be more transparent, not only towards you, but also internally for us to get insight into what we're doing. The decentralized part. Basically also, I think you've already noticed it, that we are building from like 1 to 2 and to 3. It is an extension on the previous version. So it's like adding features or capabilities. You can see that it's equivalent to the one that we saw for the internal exchange, but now there's a decentralized part, private wallets managed by you. You actually own everything. We can't reach them. I don't know if I can point with this. No. And for fund transferring, for actually matching orders, which is the hybrid part, don't ask too many specific questions about this, because this is something that is not only in development, but also on a conceptual level. It can be not only complicated, but there are multiple ways we can implement the hybrid terminology here. But this is transfer funds towards us, where the matching happens. And then the same orders can still be forwarded to external exchanges, so all the advantages from previous versions still stand. So where are we now? In numbers, a little bit. We have over 16 developers. Actually, when I wrote this, there were 16, but now there are 19. Today, actually, which is really, really nice, we came to an agreement with 3 developers, which is awesome, and I think they're really going to add a lot of value. So we have 19 developers in our main channel. We are more or less decentralized, and the reason I'm saying that is we are not all working in the TQ office. We actually work with developers that also work from other countries, so remote. And that is because we have a collaboration with an external party, and that is what has helped us through actually the whole month of January and part of the month of February to actually get started on building this without having to set up a whole team and the whole recruitment process as a requirement for starting to actually build this stuff. So what we did is we collaborate with them early around the pre-sale, a little bit before that actually, and we already started on things to actually make sure that we can deliver, because it's nearly impossible to set up a team and a culture and actually also deliver a beta in that short amount of time. And we have a very active Slack also because we're more or less decentralized in nature. One of the parts of our team now is also the setting up of a culture. We are working remote, so that means we have to do a couple of concessions. We can't really do stand-ups in person. We have to do them over Slack. We use Slack. And also, values in the team are really important, how we communicate with each other, how we set goals, and how we deal with failure or non-delivery or non-reachability. And there's a lot of open communication at this point. Like, you get all these statistics in Slack, and we actually, more than 80% of our messages are in public channels, which is something I believe is very beneficial, because that means that everyone is always up to date of everything, and a product owner is definitely playing a big role in making sure that everyone is aligned. Which is part of the culture we're trying to set up. Then to our stack, which is a little bit more technical, so I won't go into details. But we are using microservices, and some of you may already think, the ones that actually know what microservices are, it's more or less splitting up your architecture, and this is the backend, by the way, into multiple services. And the way these services are defined and the way they interact with each other is a whole issue on its own. It can be relatively complicated to define all the contexts for services. And we use multiple programming languages and frameworks actually to make everything happen. And that is also because one programming language can have a lot of advantages, but it definitely always also has disadvantages. And also, when setting up a team really, really quick, it can be difficult to find developers that are actually able to work in one language or one framework only, that are specialized in that. So it's really beneficial to say that you can actually spread your effort over multiple languages and services. And this also allows us to deal with potential performance issues in the future because you can scale things individually. And then in terms of progress, like I said, our team has grown a lot. Most of the services are actually already completely functioning and testing. So we are more or less on track, and like I said, a really big part of where we stand has been getting the team up and running and everyone on the same page. And of course, we did a lot of pre-work, so it wasn't really, really difficult to get everyone up to speed to really start contributing to our project. There we go again. All right. So where we stand now, what is going well and what's challenging? Naturally, we are also running into some problems, which is natural for any company. What really is going well is scaling the team. That was really a challenge, and I keep repeating it, but that was something that also not only cost a lot of time, but also a lot of resources on other levels. What's really going well also is the knowledge and experience in the team. We have, most of our developers are actually on a senior level, which is nice, because it helps us to get from an abstract level of discussion to a lot of implementations without having to do a lot of research, so that enables us to iterate relatively quickly and have relatively short sprints as well. There's a lot of commitment from everyone, not only the team that is sitting right here, but from everyone, also from the development side, which, looking at the fact that we have to build something that is quite challenging is really motivating as well, that everyone puts in so much effort. And vision, we've been developing a lot of new ideas. We've been doing a lot of brainstorming when you run into problems of building this. And a part of that is also because of obstacles you run into, be it legal, be it technical, or any other level. And that can complicate things a lot. But I think overall we've developed a very sophisticated vision on how to enable us to reach those goals that we have. What has been really challenging, though, is scaling in general. Getting, I don't know if people really can relate, but scaling a development process linearly is nearly impossible. So more developers does definitely not mean more productivity. So that's a big challenge on its own when you want to realize a really big product. So that has been challenging, but like I said, I think we've managed to do pretty good. There have been some issues around fiat transfers, and that's what actually caused us to move the internal exchange a little bit forward. Because it's just rather difficult to move fiat money or money in general around, especially in a space that is relatively gray. It's not regulated, but you have to anticipate these things, and it's hard to make decisions on that level because on the one hand, there are not really hard requirements of what you can and cannot do. I mean, there are some, but there's also a lot of freedom. But to claim this freedom can also mean that you run into issues later, and that has been a challenge to really get an overview of what the risks are and what the best options would be for our roadmap and our product. And dependency on external services, which is more or less a part around moving stuff around, like funds from people. Communicating with external services means that you're dependent on them, that they actually are online all the time, that they function in a certain way, and that their documentation or their information they provide to you is actually sufficient and stable. And that can be hard because the crypto world is really ever evolving. It's evolving really, really fast, and it's hard to keep track of things, and also of the functioning of certain services that we are integrating with. And then, of course, how will we actually succeed in building this with the challenges taken into account and everything that's going well? So, like I said, we have been starting with a culture development. We work agile, but it's Blockport style. Like I said, we have a lot of remote developers, so it's hard to do everything like following the book, and it's hard to follow the book in general and then also expect everything to go really, really well. So we have more or less our own practices, our own tools, and there's a lot of open communication. So, for example, we record all our meetings so that everyone is able to sync on every single thing that we do internally. So there's a lot of overview for everyone. Everyone knows exactly what we're working on, and that is really important because we have to make decisions really, really fast. So having a lot of meetings is actually not an option. Getting everyone on the same page is not an option when you have to scale really, really quickly. But having all the information in one central place that everyone can go to is something that we found to be really efficient. The working environment is also very important. TQ is a really nice place to work at. There's a lot of energy around, and there also has to be a lot of quiet time, of course, for developers. One of the first things I actually mentioned together with the founders, like, okay, we're going to build an engineering team here. One of the most important things also for me is that you can concentrate for 4 hours straight without anyone interrupting, without any sound around you, which is something we really try to build into the way we work. Of course, we have to work really, really smart to try to achieve everything. We have to keep things really simple, not spend too much time on things that are not relevant, make decisions quickly, but also make them quick, but with regard to the fact that we are actually going to potentially have consequences if we make them. So KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And of course, we have to fail, because we're going to fail, but rather we fail early and we fail often, so we fail before it actually comes to you, before you actually start using stuff. We have already failed a couple of times, which is maybe one of the challenges. On the other hand, it's really an advantage because we actually know what the characteristics are of what we're going to build. And in the context of having to fail often, recovery is also really important. Not failing is not an option at all. So let's spend a lot of time and energy on how to recover, how to communicate about these things, and how to get back on track as soon as possible. Then one of the big advantages also to Blockport is partnerships, naturally. One of them is actually part of everyone that's going to talk here. And of course, that's ARC. A really big advantage for ARC is the community. They provide us with a lot of information. We actually did an AMA with them. There's a lot of energy going around that, and the project itself with its goals is really interesting for us. It more or less aligns with what we hope to eventually achieve. So not only an exchange, I mean the exchange of course is what we're completely focused on now, but in the future there are so many more options for cryptocurrency, and Blockport is not necessarily going to stay in the same space. It depends on where the world evolves to, the cryptocurrency world and ARC itself. And we can get a lot of valuable information, energy from and suggestions also from our community. Part of the community is knowledge. There are a lot of active projects around ARC that can help us on a technical level, actually. So not on a conceptual level only, but they are doing a lot of things, solving general crypto problems. There are a lot of general crypto problems that we run into. It's definitely imperfect. And the knowledge helps us to, understand them, work around them, and eventually implement solutions, maybe. Part of that would potentially be an implementation for a part of our decentralized exchange, the ARC contract execution services, called ACEs, which is something we're exploring. We actually mentioned this in one of our Medium posts. It could actually help us implement the decentralized exchange. I won't go into details here, but that's one of the really big values that we actually already got from ARC. And being able to collaborate on such a project will enable us, again, to achieve that goal, hopefully. Integrations with real life. Like I said, Blockport is not necessarily only going to be an exchange. On the other hand, we really want to make sure that when you use Blockport, it's an optimal experience. You feel safe using Blockport. You have an idea of what we are doing behind the scenes. And that is more or less an integration with real life and also integration with other external services. I mean, we are actually from the get-go integrating with other services. It might become more. So exactly the implementation details about that. We want to leave relatively open. Where do we head? Where do we go? What extra options are there in the future? This is actually my last slide, so feel free to hit me up with any questions you may have or any other remarks. And I'm now going to pass the mic to Pascal.
Okay, thanks everyone for your attention so far. I would like to propose a small break.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a nice break. Everybody got a drink? Good. Okay, so now we're going to talk about design at Blockport. Yes. Okay, so I'm guessing most of you, the first introduction you had with us, anything platform related, was the alpha. And I'm here to talk about design, but actually this first part is not really about design. Because we did the alpha to validate a vision that we had. And the vision is that we wanted to incorporate social trading and of course generic trading elements. And we chose to do a desktop version because we set some strict deadlines for ourselves, and the least restrictions we had were for desktop. So we had to make assumptions. And some of the assumptions had to do with the elements that we created. Some of the assumptions had to do with our vision, Bas and Kai, actually Bas and Kai's vision. And we were lucky. We were really lucky because most of these assumptions were actually correct, and which meant that we could actually keep and stick to our roadmap. So after the alpha, we had a validated vision, and we chose to go to the next step, which is the actual design for the first beta, which we will show you later. Okay, so after the point, at this point, so after we had the alpha, we had all the information we needed to actually move forward. And we had to find an approach to make it work. So we chose a user-centered design approach to find out what our potential users use it for and in which conditions. And the conditions are really important because we are not only focusing on beginners, we are not only focusing on experienced traders, we're focusing on both. And both have different conditions, different wants, different needs. So the final goal is to make something that's highly usable, that can be accepted by the community. Even if you're a beginner, if you don't know anything about trading, we still want to help you get there. And we want to create a community that will also help each other. And basically, based on the validations that we made and based on the new design which we will show you, we believe that we can really do that. So this final design is really there to help people grow. So when you're a beginner, we really want to take you by the hand, educate you, teach you more about trading, teach you more about cryptocurrency and the world around it, and also teach you more about what we do. And yeah, well, we hope you stick with us when you use the product. So we chose an iterative design approach. Basically, what I just mentioned is we set a deadline for ourselves based on our roadmap. And it is ambitious, but we are a startup. We are in a world which is changing rapidly, and we have to change with it. So we set a strict deadlines. And sorry, I'm skipping something. Yeah. Okay, so before we go to the whole roadmap and the deadline things, our design structure is based on heavily involving all users in the design process, but also everybody from Blockport. And we have marketing, we have developers, we have software engineers, we have the founders, we have strategy, we have Jasper and I for design. And basically what it means is that we want to get to a level that we know that it's close to what matches the user specific needs. After this, we will create a short and long-term vision. Further iterations will be made to come close to user satisfaction. Together with the whole team, we have created a design process based on the user's tasks and the environment that they're in, which is also different for everybody else. And it involves different disciplines in Blockport because everybody has their own edition. I'm looking at something from one way, Bas is looking for something from a different way, Zowie is looking from a CTO way. So it's really important for future development. And that's only about what we're doing now, so that's really short term. But we're also working on a proficient way to create a long-term design process. Design is the first thing you see. Technology is important, marketing is important, but eventually when you use the product, you see the design, and whether you like it, or whether you don't like it, it's really based on how that works, how it feels, how you think it looks. Does it work with you? Does it do what you want it to do? We're working right now on long-term monitoring, and we're doing that with the whole team. And that's difficult to do, because, why is it starting? No, I just pressed once. It doesn't matter. It's difficult because what really happens on a normal exchange is this happens in this world maybe 2-3 months, and we have to be able to adapt to that. So yeah, working on a proficient long-term goal and a long-term strategy. That's what we're focusing on now. And the short term, we got it down, as we will show you in a second with the design. But the long term is really our goal right now. And now it's not doing anything. Okay. So I would like to thank you all for coming here today. And as a thank you, I'm going to show you a short preview of our design. Can everybody see it? Because it's a little off color, yeah? Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so basically what we're focusing on is really minimalistic design. We want to create something that triggers an experienced trader, but also gets to a level that a beginner trader really understands what's going on. So as you can see, we have your portfolio balance. We chose to separate your cash balance from the portfolio to give you a really actual growth of portfolio. So what do you guys think? First impressions? Yeah? There's one important thing that we chose to do is where you usually see that an exchange or a wallet is pulled apart from your buy and selling of a coin is where we chose to put it together. We think that a best onboarding procedure for beginner traders and a best procedure to do things quickly for experienced traders and to keep everything together. And that's not easy, but we managed to do it, and I will take you through the selling process. Of course, there's a lot more, the exchange and the wallet, but we're not going to show you that yet. We don't want to spoil everything. Okay, so basically, the selling process is for every trader. Most of you here have Blockport tokens, so I think you're already a trader. You know what it means, the amount, the market price, the total value, your cash wallet, and of course, your bank account. And that's, I'm guessing, a really important thing for us. Huh? So here you can review your sale, check if everything's correct. Here you see the transaction fee, you see what you'll eventually receive. And as you can see, everything's just minimalistic, keep it simple, really straightforward, trying to get everybody to understand it. So at this point, you're going to confirm your sale. And just the basic information is here. And you'll know exactly what you get. It's really transparent. And we really want to show everybody that this is it. We don't want no hidden fees, no things that you'll find out later. And that's it. It's confirmed. You made money. So I would like to thank you. I kept this short. And now Pascal is going to talk to you about marketing, right?
Yes, that is correct. Okay, thank you. I'm going to do a small intermezzo.
Do the switch, right?
Yeah, exactly. All the jazz. Yeah. Could you maybe attach this to my butt?
Yeah, man, I'll attach it to your butt. Give me your butt.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you all for being here. My name is Pascal. I'm the marketing guy at Blockport. Not the only marketing guy, but I'm their head of growth. I want to tell you something about our marketing strategy, the one we implemented in the run-up to the token sale, but also some future marketing plans. I would also like to elaborate on what worked well in the run-up during our token sale and hopefully enlighten you with a beautiful job marketing is at Blockport. So starting out with the strategy, as a marketing guy, we also think it's very important to focus on culture. I think we are very much in line with what Joey just mentioned. It's good to fail forward. You have to learn from all of your failures. But in the end, done is better than perfect. You have to make progress, and we think that's the right way to go. Then there's a certain process. With that process, we mean also a kind of agile working. We don't want to spend too much money right at once at any one given channel. We want to experiment first before we decide on allocating budget to any channel. The multidiscipline. During the run-up to the token sale, I didn't really work with a multidisciplinary team, but now in the run-up to the full platform release, we will start implementing more product marketing features. And for implementing those kinds of marketing features, we will have to work with the development team. And I think that that's even more so underlines that it's very important to have a certain kind of similar process to what the development team is working with. And then in the end, tools. We marketing guys usually are not the best of developers, so we work with a lot of kind of third-party tools. I will give you some examples of tools that we utilized in the run-up to the token sale to ensure that we had a successful token sale. So what worked? We started out with, when I met Bas and Kai, we had a Telegram group of I think 150 people, something like that. We started doing outreach on LinkedIn. It's very time consuming to manually address anyone on LinkedIn. So we used the LinkedIn automation tool to automatically send messages to people. The tool is called Duck Soup. If you want to know some more about that tool, you can ask it during the AMA. But it helped us get some initial traction, and within a couple of weeks, have over 500 people in our Telegram community. That was very useful because that allowed us to get some more insights of what people actually liked about our product. Eventually, we also started utilizing Facebook advertising. I don't know how experienced everyone here is with Facebook ads, so I will try and keep it short and simple. We utilized it mostly to implement a Facebook pixel on our homepage, and we used it to retarget visitors that came to our homepage and invite them to our Telegram group. And this tactic actually allowed us to scale our Telegram group from that 500 people to currently I think we have 13,000 people. So that was awesome, worked very well to build a community. We also had another tool that we use for our bounty program. Who here participated in a bounty program by show of hands? Oh, that's not a lot. 3 people, okay, nice, cool. Well, we launched a bounty program, and it actually went viral in certain parts of the world. At some point, we went viral in Southeast Asia and Vietnam, and we ended up with 22,000 bounty program participants. And the bounty program, actually, we designed it to have people share and create content about Blockport and about our value proposition. So instead of doing a lot of PR outreach and focusing too much on content production, we could have and leverage people to do it for us. And it worked very well, gained us a lot of exposure, and people that were genuinely interested in our product shared stuff about Blockport. So that was awesome. And then for future plans, we do want to focus more on content production. So as you can see, a lot of pictures are getting taken. We're actually recording this meetup event. This will be posted online shortly. We're also making an after movie. We'll write a blog post about this. And that's something we want to focus more on to keep our community updated. Not only through content, but also regular updates on our Telegram community to keep our community satisfied. Next to that, we will also launch our product. Our full platform release will be in Q1 of 2019, and that's something we want to focus on as well. And what I mean by that is that marketing is going to be shifted more towards product marketing. So features in a product that will have a marketing function, like a referral program that's being flashed out right now, but that's something we're going to work more towards. Next to that, also, branding will be more important for us. It is very important for us to communicate our value proposition in a proper manner through PR outlets, but also in our marketing activities. So that was a very short and brief explanation of what we did during our marketing and what our future plans are. I hope you all are enlightened about what we did. We will now start hosting our fireside chat. Thank you all for your attention so far. If you have any questions, you can start asking them in a couple of minutes while we set this up. Thanks so much.
We would like to start with our AMA, so find a place to sit down. Think of some questions, if you have any. And then we'll start off. I will be handling the audience mic, so if you have any questions. Okay. Want to start it off? Great stuff. So I can imagine that after all these presentations, there are some questions. Does anyone have any question to anyone? Okay.
Ja, ik doe het wel even in het Nederlands, als je dat goed vindt. Ik had een aantal vragen. Is er al bekend of er nieuwe exchanges zijn waar de Blockport token op komt?
Well, this gentleman here asked us if we are getting listed on a new exchange in the near future. We unfortunately cannot make any disclosure about that because we're under strict NDA. So, I'm sorry.
That answers the question. What about the fees on your Blockport website? The fees that you are going to ask, is there a percentage? So,
Well, there's not a hard percentage yet. The fees will change because in the first version, as I told before, we're building a shell around another exchange. So as asked on the Telegram also, that means that the fees of the other exchange we need to calculate through to our customer, of course. But eventually, when we build towards the hybrid decentralized exchange, the fees will be going towards zero almost. So yeah, well, instead of the actual normal fee that normal centralized exchanges are imposing, but there's a difference between like the fiat deposits and withdrawals and the crypto-to-crypto fees. So because the payment providers ask a fee as well, so that will also be like normal fees that you are used to on other exchanges.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay.
Are you planning to go more towards the dividend model where it's like splitting the fees towards the token holders?
I can give answer to that, I think. Is he on the record?
Yes.
Oh, he's on. Okay, so I don't have to rephrase him.
No.
Cool. Okay. So basically, no. Our token is a utility token, and if we were to promise any kind of revenue in the forms of dividend, then there will be a high chance that we will be classified as a security token, and that has all kinds of nasty consequences with regards to regulations. So we are proactively trying to avoid that, and we've always been very, very clear in our communication in the white paper and any other channel, basically.
Cool. Any more questions? Yes.
I would like to know, do you already, how are your relations to the authorities like the AFM, and do you already have a bank account?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we have a bank account. We're closely working with Bennink. It's a Dutch bank. Maybe you've heard of it. It's a very young and innovative bank, and they offer a lot of options when it comes to integrating services with regards to fiat and deposits and withdrawals. And yes, we are in close contact with Dutch authorities. For example, the AFM and the Nederlandse Bank, the DNB. So, yes.
Right.
Any more questions?
Yeah, you mentioned spreading out orders over different exchanges. How do you envision arbitrage opportunities using Blockport, or are they not possible at all, and are they leveled out immediately? Or am I able to effectively arbitrage between different exchanges?
Well, technically, that's something that I preferably leave up to the implementation that we have communicating with the external exchanges. So if you were to use Blockport as a user for that purpose, then I would say no. But technically, it would be possible. So we are considering that option, yeah.
So you're automatically picking the cheapest exchange for my buy order to fill, or secretly making something on the side there?
No. We are trying to treat everything in your favor, of course. because I mean there's a lot of clarity around our model, but technically it would be possible. But no, we are trying to pick the best situation for you. So for an end user, no.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? See some in the back.
Hi. How are you handling compliance?
Sorry?
How are you handling compliance?
Whoa, that's a very, very general question. We're handling compliance very well, I would say, but
you have a compliance team
it is an extreme. Sorry?
You have a compliance team already built, or?
Yeah, we're currently building a compliance team. We're closely working with our partners from Osborne Clarke and also with Deloitte when it comes to tax. So Osborne Clarke as a legal advisor and Deloitte as a tax advisor, basically. And yes, we're now working on building our own compliance team with particular compliance officers.
Okay, but I'm talking about more KYC and AML for your users.
Yeah. What is your question exactly?
So you have to handle that, right? Because there has to be KYC and AML if
Yep.
you're connected to.
We're doing that.
Okay, and that Bennink allows that for you
Yep.
to do that.
Yeah, we are already accepted by Bennink. So basically, they know about our AML and KYC policy,
Okay.
and they have accepted us.
Nice.
And we're also closely working with Onfido. I don't know if you know
Who?
that.
Who?
Onfido. Onfido is a KYC service. So we're basically using their technology and their service to check your identity, check your addresses, check your background, all these kinds of checks.
Nice, very good, very nice.
Hoeveel professionele traders hebben jullie in het team?
Okay, so he asked how much professional traders we have in the team. Could you define professional trader?
Well, you're building a trading platform, so I guess you have traders in your team.
Yeah,
You
well,
mean at professional
me and
level?
Kai have been trading for, I think, 3 years now. But we have only traded in cryptocurrencies.
Okay, on cryptocurrencies. Okay. And what kind of orders do you want to provide to the people that are trading on your platform?
You like stop loss orders and
Exactly.
Yeah, I
OCOs.
Yeah, so for the first version, the beta, it's just market orders. So we're going to build like the user interface that's really friendly for beginners. So it's 2 tests really. So it's first market orders, and then you can expect all kind of sort of orders. So it's everything you as a properly experienced trader expect from an exchange.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Zowie wants to add something.
Yeah, what's also really relevant in the model where we interface with external exchanges is that it also depends on what they offer. So we can be more or less limited by that option. And that's also partly the reason that we are, for our beta at least, only considering market orders.
Okay, so you mean what the API of the other exchange offers you?
Yeah, considering that their API should offer what they internally also can provide. Yeah.
So you can't build a virtual order system that shoots in the orders what you want without having the API giving you the order on the exchange.
Sorry, can you rephrase?
Yeah, it was a...
So if Binance, per se, only have stop limits, can you shoot in an OCO if you want to?
Well,
even if they don't offer it you?
Well, technically, it should be possible to like create certain types of orders, considering that we can still choose the exchange to trade on.
Mm-hmm.
So that should technically still be possible, but it's still limited by the total options that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I want to add that this changes with the internal exchange, and it's also being pulled forward, but there we have all control over our order options.
Hi, I wanted to ask about the formal partnerships. So in your external exchange model, you're heavily reliant on porting other exchanges and basically distributing or leveraging their liquidity. Could there possibly be a point in the future where they say, hey, no, we don't want anyone accessing our exchange without going through our sites? So does Blockport have any formal partnership or formal relationship with these exchanges? And part 2 of the question, also in regards to the formal partnerships, do you have partnerships with other crypto startups, or are you open to it, or is there something in the horizon? Thank you.
Well, the last question, yeah, we are always open to start new partnerships, but we also know that there are a lot of initiatives in this space that are trying to get some grip, and so we have to be very, very strict who we deal with or who we choose to work with. With regards to the partnership with exchanges, yes, they are allowing us now to work with them, but we are relatively small at the moment. So when it comes to offering new liquidity, we are a high potential. So they are opening their doors at the moment for us. But yes, in the long run, this might be a problem when it comes to competitiveness.
This is especially true because you mentioned something about the newly listed ICO coins, for example, that being a very attractive point for Blockport, where a coin that's just listed on EtherDelta or IDEX or wherever suddenly becomes available also on Blockport. And a lot of exchanges rely on these newly listed coins to bring in revenue. So they could see that as Blockport trying to take a slice of their cake.
Yeah, agree.
All right, thank you.
Well, I can add to that. That's definitely true. So, but as Kai said, for now they are accepting us because we're relatively small, and they earn over the trades that have been done on BPT. So, like Qcoin earns over the trades. But that's also why we're building our own exchange. So don't confuse it with like we're only integrating other exchanges. We're also building our own internal exchange to be less dependent on other exchanges.
Hi, you have a quite interesting infrastructure concept, and which comes also with a lot of challenges. Because it's so complex and you're trying to integrate many services together in terms of all kinds of way, internal, external, how are you going to deal with the security complexity of this infrastructure type?
Well, there's a lot of stuff involved in getting that in order, definitely. For starters, of course, risk assessments, risk matrices, performance tests, code reviewing by independent parties. Also the fact that I'm seeing that we have individual components. They also have individual contracts, so to say. So that also offers us with some options and some isolation in terms of testing. So we have a well-formulated QA process where we try to rigorously test everything that we do. And of course, this also goes for tests that have like a security goal in mind. But with a specific focus to security, it will be testing by independent parties. And also we're looking at bug bounty programs to actually keep a community that will hopefully help us to stay secure.
Okay, are you implementing like security specific design, specifically in the design yet, or are you going to use like the high level models which you mentioned more in security, or is that for a later phase what you're going to think about?
Well, it depends on what aspect of security you're talking about. Like Kai already said, culture, of course, security is a process, so it's not something you can define super strictly, and it's also partly, consciousness. We have to all be aware of the fact that we are a really relevant target, and in terms of more lower level security practices, it's opinionated, of course, but standards are very, very important, and it's also communication about the way we implement these things and part of the test scenarios. Again, proper definitions for things, I think, is a really big part in the individual or security of individual services. I don't know if that answers your question, or maybe you can rephrase it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's part of the answer. But it's quite interesting because we've just had a report from a really respected security firm, which said like the average vulnerabilities found at blockchain-related technologies are 5 vulnerabilities. So people are a lot focusing on the product itself, but the future and stability of many of these products is lying in really the trusting these exchanges and trusting their future. So implementing this in the baseline would be a good idea, but yeah, it was just a thing because the infrastructure was really interesting, the model that you choose, but I can imagine that it's really a headache to try to zoom in into all these specific parts and trying to find the right model to make it also efficient, where you make sure that all your users are protected at the same time. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, being decentralized hopefully is partly a solution to that in some way. But let's continue after the AMA so that we can get more into that.
Yeah, cool.
Any more? Yes.
Hi. Could you provide any insights on the limits of the fiat gateway? How high amounts will be the amounts of money you can buy Bitcoin or sell Bitcoin? And will there be different tiers or something like that?
Yes, there will be different tiers, and we're, again, very dependent on the exchanges that we work with. For now, yes, because we're dependent on external exchanges and their limits.
Okay, and I have one more question. Who do you think is your biggest competitor right now, and why are you better than them?
Good question.
Very good question. What do you think?
I don't know. You tell me.
We cannot say that, actually.
I dare to say it. It's Coinbase. Well, we think it's Coinbase because we can look at projects that aren't live yet, like Ethos, that has been mentioned a lot in the Telegram, but they are not live yet. So we tend to look at companies that are successful now, and that's definitely Coinbase. If you look at the spectrum of being user-friendly, they are the most user-friendly, I think, platform right now. Although it isn't a full exchange, it is, for the most people, the first gateway to cryptocurrencies. How we're better than Coinbase? Yeah, we have a lot of new features that they don't have, of course, and we also, on an exchange, we are a full exchange that they have split up in GDEX and in Coinbase. So yeah, I can tell a lot about differences, but I think it's also interesting to see what Ethos is going to do next month. I believe they're also going to publish, release their beta. So it's going to be really interesting to see, and maybe we can rephrase our answer then. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello. Talking about security, like a week ago, there was a token that was hacked. I believe it is Titanium. Can you tell us how you are avoiding these cases?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, being secure or preventing of being hacked it comes down to a lot of things. I guess it's relatively similar to the question he just asked. There are a lot of things we can actually implement and do to try to prevent these things. And it comes down to being aware of what happens in the space, of course, and implementing the right standards, making sure that we are rigorously tested, and also making sure that we are tested very often, and that becomes part of our process, I guess, because now we're in the phase where we have to create, a process that is stable and that we can actually maintain and let grow for the coming months and years. So that would be a very important part of creating that standard, but feel free to hit me up with extra specific questions if you may have any.
Yeah, that's it. Any more questions?
The guy with the white shirt here. The guy with the white shirt. Compliance guy.
Where do you see yourself in 5-10 years?
Wow. Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 light years? Good question. Well, our roadmap ends in 2019-ish. And, well, our vision has always been to open up this new digital economy for everyone. And I know it's very, very general, but this is our vision at the moment, and we're holding on to that. We're really incorporating that into every version that we are currently building. But for now, I think the challenge is enormous to reach and fulfill our roadmap till 2019. I think if you ask us next year, our answer will be completely different because there has been there's been so much going on in this coming year that my vision and my answer will completely be changed, I think.
So you see yourself as an onboarding experience, right?
Yeah. Do you have something to add, Sebastian? Okay.
I have a question of a technical nature, I guess. As Zowie already mentioned, we shouldn't ask questions about this, and this is where the magic happens. Oh, sorry. But what I am thinking about is like, I've been using centralized exchanges with, well, great pleasure. I've been using decentralized exchanges with, well, even more pleasure. But the thing I'm most interested in is like the hybrid decentralized or centralized architecture you guys are building. How are you guys like maintaining the speed of a centralized platform while also giving you the benefits of a decentralized?
$1 million question.
Yeah. Yeah. So and that's basically what I'm interested in. Like, what are the options? You said you have multiple options in how you would tackle that problem, and well, where are you on that problem?
Well, I mean, if I had like one concrete answer, then that would be really, really awesome, because that is basically what we're trying to work on now. Like I mentioned in a really simple way in the diagram, is you can, there are multiple ways to transfer funds before the matching happens. How will you, and of course you can, when being decentralized, it would be even better, of course, to have like on-chain, cross-chain atomic swaps. But that is also very dependent on the underlying blockchains that you actually swap between. So it also depends on the technology advancements in the chains that we will integrate with. So it's very hard to give you one concrete answer. And I guess like if I would really be giving an open answer to this, it would become more or less a brainstorm session, because I already had situations where I just sat down with people that are into this stuff, and we came up with conceptual overviews of maybe even potential new solutions that we haven't heard of yet. So I wouldn't be able to give you like really one specific answer, but yeah, there are options that we are considering.
I could see that you have like a volume of different currencies as kind of a pool which you use to translate those orders you have, or yeah, indeed, like an atomic swap protocol. Yeah, I'm interested to see how you guys will tackle this problem. So. Are we looking for developers?
Yeah, I mean, that's.
I'm not a developer. No, I'm not.
Okay. Well, to others. Okay. Yeah, maybe a small thing to add there is that, of course, ARC ACES is one of the potential things that we're considering. But from a conceptual point of view, there are still more options.
I have a question about the beta and maybe about testing in general. Do you have, how are you going to allow people, like in the room, to test the beta version? And do you have maybe an expert panel to test your beta version? And my last question about it, is there maybe a forum of some kind to get the community offer functional changes or maybe improvements about the product?
So,
5 questions.
So which one do you want me to answer first?
First about the beta and testing in general.
Okay. So we want to release the beta end of March, as of now, we are trying to put a cap on it, on how many users the beta will entail. We're not completely sure about that number right now, but we'll communicate that as soon as we know. And testing will be done via various ways. Of course, through the platform itself, in a technical way, and that's of course Zoe's responsibility, but also through the community and through communicative channels via the platform itself. So there will be a lot of opportunities for people to share their ideas and give us new feedback and yeah. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, there's a small thing like we're also doing like user tests with specific groups of people. I mean, it's not open, but it's still a form of testing. And considering that you mentioned that it, like if everyone in the room would be able to test, or like a general group, that is more or less the one of the goals for the beta as well, right? So it's a learning process, and that from the moment we release that will be a testing phase, I think.
to add to that, to the beta, like the designs of that Spiros and Jasper made, we did focus groups and tested with people from the community. So I don't know if they're here, but there are people that have been coming to this office, and we've recorded them using our designs, our app, and used that feedback to iterate upon our designs. So maybe that's also partly answers your question. We try to really involve with the community to create a better product, because there is no better way than to get your community on board really quick.
I had 5 questions. Yeah, so you're gonna get 5 answers. So one small thing to add is, as I mentioned before, during the part of design, right now we have a short-term process, but we're focusing on a proficient long-term process as well, which also incorporates what Bas said, short iterations based on feedback that we get from community, in combination with what we want to build for ourselves. And the other Jasper, we have 2 Jaspers, the product owner, he's really on top of that, and almost every day we talk with him about what's coming from the community, what's coming for ourselves, what questions do we have, how can we improve on that. And that's something we're going to keep doing at least throughout entire 2018 for as long as it works.
One last question then. About the expert group, are you still looking for people? Are you still looking for inputs about maybe test automation or something?
Yeah. Yeah, no, of course, we're always looking for people who are willing to test our product and give us valuable feedback. So yes, very welcome.
Okay, maybe later for the beers.
Yeah, of course, afterwards. So everybody who wants to
sign up here. Yeah. Sign up at Spiros.
Okay, it's 8:30 now. We're gonna do 2 or 3 more questions. What do you guys want? 3? Yeah. Okay, and we have 1 there. So okay, 3 last questions.
Hi guys. I was wondering, what type of partnerships are you looking for?
Wow, yeah, good question. I would say, like a bit, yeah. I would say similar, but not exactly the same, of course, to, for example, ARC. Basically, a partnership should give you value, and a partnership should be a win-win situation for both parties. So when it comes to the partnership that we have with ARC, I think we can say that we are both like complementing each other's goals and each other's vision. I think that's the main goal of a partnership.
Perfect answer. I think we should talk after this session.
Cool, of course.
This lady over here.
So looking at the midterm and long term then, so once you have your internal as well as the external exchanges, what can you tell me about your risk policy? So for both internal and external, so do you have any limits to, say, counterparty exposures and exchanges? What if one of them collapse? What if in a split second you don't manage to match your trade, or in terms of different tokens or instruments that you're trading? What type of risk constraints are you operating under?
Sorry, I didn't really hear the question fully. Could you rephrase one more time?
So in terms of the risk policies that you envisage yourself having to ensure you are not overly exposed to, say, either a counterparty, an exchange, or a certain token, a currency, any type of, I guess, risk constraint that you're thinking of to protect yourself, what do you have at the moment?
Well, during 2018, we will be adding more exchanges, for example. And this means that we will not be as dependent on one exchange when we add more. So risk-wise, this will be increased, the risk will be decreasing, and the value will increase when it comes to risk assessment.
And is there no limit on, say, hey, 80% of our trades are currently with one exchange because they are the only ones who offer this one instrument, or say, is there anything in your risk?
I think you're talking about risk mitigation about the funds. Like we have funds flowing through multiple exchanges of our customers. I don't know if this answers your question, but maybe. We also have, in the percentage view, we will have a high percentage that will be stored in a cold storage until we are arrived at the hybrid decentralized exchange. So that means that not more than a certain percentage will be exposed on these different exchanges. So meaning that, yeah, we will have, we will try to keep the exposure as low as possible by keeping stuff cold storage, but also by integrating multiple exchanges so that may one fall down, that there's not that much exposure that our customers will notice. I don't know if that answers it.
Okay, great. Gonna take 2 more.
Good luck.
I asked a question earlier about the banks. I know that Bennink is a very crypto-friendly bank, but I think for a venture of your size or your perceived size in the future, you should not have a single point of failure. You should apply for multiple banks. Do you agree?
Yeah, yes, I agree. But since we are very, very small and extremely high-risk company, since we're only live officially for 2 months, not even 2 months, banks make risk assessments based on financial flows, based on your age, for example, and both are not very, very positive in that sense for us at the moment.
Yeah.
So our ambitions are very, very high, but we're still very, very small and young. And banks don't like to work with these kinds of companies.
Yeah, not only the reasons you mentioned, I think, but also just if you are involved in cryptocurrency startups or blockchain startups, it's in general very hard to find a bank account other than the bank. So that's the reason I ask. But
yeah, well, I know that there are some centralized exchanges, larger centralized exchanges. Take, for example, Kraken, who has a partnership with Fidor Bank. That's a UK, or this is a German bank, also based in UK. Maybe some of you have read this, but in the past week, Bitfinex and ING Bank also were in the news because Bitfinex has a bank account at ING. They didn't want to publicly announce that, but they do have a bank account. So when you are increasing in size and increasing in financial flows and in liquidity, it starts to get interesting for banks as well to work together.
Yeah, and if all other fails, you can always go to the Fidor Bank.
Awesome. Okay, last question. Other questions can be saved for the drinks afterwards.
Okay, so all of us here are traders and have an account of Binance, Bittrex, and lots of exchanges. What is actually your target demographic, my grandma, and how are you going to reach them? What will be main modes of marketing?
Yeah, I can take this mic. Yeah, that's a very good question, especially since advertising on Facebook has been blocked for most cryptocurrency-related companies. There are still other advertising options, like with AdWords, and also some targeting options on LinkedIn. However, I doubt to find anyone's grandma on there. So we're also looking at ways to implement referral programs. So hopefully we have a great first user experience, so people get enthusiastic about the program and they want to share it. And to incentivize this sharing, we want to reward the people that share it with their friends or family or grandmas. And what those incentives will be, we're not sure about, but that's, we think, most fruitful way to get it to the people that we want to target. Does that answer your question? Okay, cool.
Good.
Yeah, okay. Okay, final question.
There's one more.
Okay, so I have some friends that are from Israel. They have a similar idea like you. It's also an exchange that's decentralized. And the funny thing is that they told me that they are paying their staff in Ethereum. So not in fiat, like we know it, or money that will immediately cost us fee to transfer it. So first of all, your perspective on that one, please. And second on that, we work as professional traders. It always is about profit and things like that. And I'm just curious, what is your long-term perspective on decentralization in general?
Well, I can give answer to the first question. We are at the moment, and we have been paying some of our employees and some of our freelancers in the form of Ethereum or in the form of Blockport tokens. So yes, we're doing that, and we're really open to do that because it's easy for us. And I think it's a very nice way to incentivize some of your employees without having, for example, to give out traditional financial instruments, incentives, like, for example, equities or dividends or whatever, which makes it tax-wise, for example, very, very hard.
Yeah, it's more like that. What are you contributing to a decentralized digital economy as a company? So it's like a future vision about without everybody's asking questions about banks.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm always dreaming about a future without banks. What is your perspective, and most of all, what is your contribution in that future? Because we all talk mouth to mouth, talking to my family about it, or explaining them what the blockchain can do. But what are you doing as a company? Because
I think, as I mentioned in my talk when I started, is this new crypto space is very innovative. And it should bring a lot of new improvements when it comes to making transactions and making things easier in life. But personally, I don't think that the blockchain and crypto space at the moment is very easy to understand when it comes to beginners. And that is exactly what Blockport wants to do. We want to build an easy-to-use gateway from the traditional world of finance to this new digital economy. And when you build this bridge, then everyone, like mass market, can invest and contribute.
Are you building a bridge to e-commerce, mobile platforms, retail as well, or is it just switching between fiat like every other exchange?
Basically, the sky's the limit. When you're now mentioning business-to-business solutions, but that could be an option, yes. If you build the bridge, then you can expand it. Maybe Lars from ARC can also give a good answer to that.
Because for me, that's like the next challenge, you know, because it's not. I saw the design that Spiros. It was beautiful. It was nice. I like the minimalistic thing. I was thinking about why do you have to confirm something again, because it's a minute game. It's not a second game, but okay, you can come to that. And you told about Coinbase. That's a good example. They have a beautiful interface and a beautiful target group and all. But what is the next step? Because the next step, that is what we're all here about. This is why people are investing in the blockchain, because we need a digital economy. We need economy. We need the next step. And what is Blockport doing for that? Like, maybe some people can laugh, but like ECX, you know, they're building on a total digital economy and helping dApps applications to bring in a new economy as well. And I think the role for an exchange in that case is important, because they're doing all the business.
Yeah, we're kind of laying a foundation. Like, we're trying to improve a basic process. It doesn't sound as sexy as maybe any other blockchain crypto ICO that's out there at the moment, but we are trying to truly address a basic fundamental problem that is still out there here in the crypto space, because everyone is having a hard time all around the world to simply buy Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies.
Did Lars still want to elaborate on that?
Well, what I want to say was, like, in the first year of our ARC, we didn't use any bank accounts for ourselves. We just paid in crypto. Only at the moment when you want to create the entity, for our entity in France, we needed to have a bank account, which took us 3 months because banks is a nightmare for crypto-related projects. So we've tried to be completely without bank accounts, but the reality is it's not yet there yet. The world is not ready yet to be completely without bank accounts. So I think it's a next step, but the regulations are not there yet. So I think we are moving to there. So that's it.
Okay. And I hope we're adding there.
Okay. I would like to thank all of the speakers of tonight, and thank you all for all of your attention. If you still want to ask some questions or have fiery discussions with all of the founders, then feel free to do so over a beer with any of the speakers. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, guys.